Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fan Behavior and F1 podcast. I'm Zoe, and I am not joined by Hannah, but I am joined by a wonderful guest. I'm sure you all know her online on social media, TikTok, Instagram as F1Femme, also known as Tasha. Tasha, thank you for being on Fan Behavior today.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm
I
so
listen,
happy you're here.
no, I'm an avid fan behavior listener. And when we have our little group chat and the girls were like, wait, Tasia, you're gonna be on fan behavior today? My two faves. And I was like, yeah, I'm linking up with the girls.
I
I'm with the
love
girls.
it.
I
I
guess
love it.
one
I know.
girl.
I know. I'm sad Hannah can't be here. For those who don't know, I think we mentioned it last week, but Hannah's on vacation this week and next week, which is great. We all need to take a break. But I'm so glad. And we've been trying to have you on for forever, and just like stuff has, whatever, life is
Life.
complicated. Things are complicated, but I'm glad we finally made it happen, made it work. We're going to get into so much. Obviously, no race this past week to debrief, which is kind of nice, honestly, because it just gives us more time to chat about other things. And we're going to get into your content history, how you got into, because you have really blown up the last year. Like you have taken it to another level. You really have.
I thank you. I guess so. It
You
wasn't
really have.
expected, but yeah, I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah. But I want to run through some of the news that's happened this week before we get to
Oh,
all
it's
of that.
fresh.
Yes, exactly. And I know you have a lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions about some of these some of these stories.
I'm
Um,
ready.
Okay, good. Okay, let's first start out with I'm just very curious about your thoughts regarding Alpine because we saw what happened last week with Pierre and Esteban post race basically saying that like he was too nice, that he plays the team game, Alpine isn't really doing their part in the relationship. And I would just love to know like is this going to combust before the end of the season? How are they going to make it through? Because we still have like what I don't even know how many races we have left. Quite a
A
few.
lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Like 15-ish, 16, something like
Yeah.
that. No, you were like saying, I want to know your thoughts. And I'm just over here giggling because I genuinely like it's so silly. It's so silly. And I feel like y'all talked about it. I don't know if it was the pod y'all did last week or maybe 2 weeks before, like how weird it was when they were like, oh, maybe we're gonna bench Esteban. Like, oh, if you're gonna do it, just do it. Like, why are you
Exactly.
saying things? Just do it. And so I'm like, okay, low key feel like he's being bullied. Like it's like he's being tousled around, but then as much as I do like Esteban, sue me, I like Esteban, and I think him being like, I'm always nice. I play the team game. I'm like, baby, let's be real. Let's be real. I don't really think you do, but that's okay. Like,
That's
that's okay.
okay.
Like,
Yes.
I always just put myself in their shoes. I'm like, I'm actually the worst competitive person ever. I would be a tyrant if I was like a driver. I would be the worst. So I can't even like hold them. Like, I'm not gonna hold you. I I
Totally.
I get it, but I don't know. It's just kind of silly. And I saw this video on TikTok. I sent it around in our group chat. It's like Pierre and Esteban. I don't know where they are, but they're wearing microphones. They're like on stage somewhere,
Okay.
and Pierre like looks at Esteban, and Esteban is literally like, if you look at me one more time, like the tension. I don't know how they do it. So to answer your question, a girl doesn't know, but it seems messy.
It's
It seems
so
messy.
messy. It's so messy. And I just because basically they've like created a precedent where now like it's so obvious. I mean, and
Yeah.
duh, it makes sense. Pierre is their guy that's going to be there in the future. Esteban's not. So of
Right.
course they're going to favor him. But like it's just gonna be. But I was like praying during the race last, yeah, 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. I was
Right.
like, please put Pierre and like I wanted them to be next to each other so badly because I wanted them. I was curious to see how are they gonna handle like this dynamic. I bet they wish they could just completely always be like racing and like one's racing for points, one's out
Mhm.
of the points because then it just doesn't cause problems. But if they're ever like, P9, P10 or whatever, they're gonna freaking crash into each other.
Well, and I thought the whole like, I also want to know your thoughts, when they were like, let Pierre have the spot because he's going after Danny Rick. I literally was like, he's not, is he, he's not even that close. I'm like, am I wrong? I don't think he was, like, he was not actually trying to chase Daniel.
Well, I think what was weird was he was behind Daniel for a considerable amount of time and he couldn't pass him then. So it's kind of like,
That's I was like, no, he's not. Don't lie. Like
yeah.
I know they're never gonna say like we're letting Pierre in front of you because we're choosing him over you. I know they're never
Yeah.
going to say that,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, just say it because then like I was on Esteban's side with he was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, and I was
I
like, yeah,
know.
like, but then I like he doesn't want the backlash that he got, which was unnecessary from what
Yes.
happened like the weeks prior. He, of course, he let him go because he didn't want that to happen again. Like, I don't know. It's just all messy. And that whole situation was messy. They didn't give him his spot back, which, like, I'm glad they both got double points. Alpine double points was not at all what I was expecting after the race we got before that.
Exactly.
Happy for them, but it's just like, I don't know. You think about like, oh, what is it like? They got double points, and it's like even the videos they were like posting after of like Esteban going around and like hugging everyone. I'm
I
just like,
know.
does he actually feel support for that team? Like
No.
they're working overtime. They're working
Oh,
overtime on the socials aspect. Like it was just very like we know.
we all know. And also, Esteban is trying to prove that he's a good teammate because he's still trying to
Yeah.
get a seat. So, like,
Yes.
he's wanting, he can't go completely scorched earth because then people are going to be like, well, I'm never going to hire you,
Right.
So he's like basically interviewing for a job.
And then his whole interview where he's like, he said there's some good things coming or like, and I'm like, are there? What do you know? Obviously he knows, but I'm like, what do you know that I don't know, Esteban?
I know.
Like, I have good things coming, and I'm like, I don't see what it could be. I mean, I
I'll
know
believe I'll
is
believe it when I see it.
exactly, but I mean, that one is a very interesting one to see where he ends up, if he ends up anywhere still on the F1 grid. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's all just messy, and it just yeah, it's never. I hope they last the whole season. I pray
Seriously.
that they last the whole.
Seriously.
Is it just like I don't want to see a brawl?
Kind of.
I mean, maybe that's like fun for the drama, but like actually,
Right. Exactly, exactly. The other piece of news that we got was Checo is getting a three-place grid penalty for Barcelona because he drove with his rear wing basically hanging off of his car, which the FIA felt was unsafe. They should have probably put out a safety car. Red Bull came out and said, we didn't want there to be a safety car because then Max's win could have been jeopardized. My first question is, what are your thoughts on everything happening with Checo? And then we can get to maybe like, should they have been punished more harshly?
right. I mean, with Checo being resigned, I was on the side of I feel like there was very two sides. It was
Mm,
either people were like, "Wow, I'm shocked," or it was people being like, "What else did you think they were gonna do?" And I was that side. I genuinely was like, I do not think they. First of all, Red Bull has just there's a lot that's happened with Red Bull this year. So me personally, like I obviously don't know anyone working there like, but I think that they just don't want to deal with a whole bunch of hoopla. Like
that's what we
they
were saying. Yeah.
exactly, they want to keep it as is. Like Checo's been he got the dub, the P2 last year. Like let's hope he can do it again this year. And I do think it's kind of like, I don't know if the spiritual girlies out there, I feel like it's so fascinating that like the exact same time last year that he started really fumbling is the exact same time. Like it is a
I
little
know.
spooky. It's weird. It's
I
weird.
know. I
And I'm like,
know.
okay, like we'll see if he can, but things are not the same as last year, baby. Like we've
Exactly.
got the McLarens and the Ferraris in the fight. And so I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't think Checo is gonna get that P2 this year if he stays on the course like he did last year.
Uh,
So I am not surprised that they re-signed him, but I do think it's still a gamble. Like I feel like someone was talking about this on F1 TV. Like someone was saying, well, Checo's hitting all the marks, and someone else was like, is he? Like, no, he's not. He's not hitting all the marks. Like he
yeah. What are
is
those
not,
marks?
literally, like he's not securing the points that he needs to secure. It's
No.
it's not happening. And if they lose that P2, if they have to fight for our constructors at the end of the year, like actually fight, Red Bull's going to be like, how did we get here? Like, the
Oh, yeah.
not what they expect.
Did you see there was a graphic that came out that was like of the Red Bull and the RB drivers in the last three races? Max has like, I don't know, 53 points, and then Daniel has 4 points, and
Yes.
Yuki has five, and Checo has 4 points. It's like, I'm sorry, sir, but like you
Sure.
shouldn't be the same as Yuki and Daniel. Like, I'm sorry. And I know,
Yeah,
like, listen, I've always said, like, these our opinions change so quickly. And like Checo could have three great races in a row and then everyone is back on board. Like it all ebbs
mhm.
and flows, but
I agree.
it's just not. But I totally agree with you. Like there wasn't really another option, but it also is sort of
Still a
like
gamble
it's still a
right
gamble.
now.
Yeah.
We're
And then
still
now,
Red Bull.
right. And now that he has the three-place grid penalty, I'm like, okay, well, if he qualifies poorly again, then is he starting, where is he starting from?
Yeah,
And then is he going to be a problem again? Like and I feel like Red Bull, though, they don't care because they would rather secure Max's victory and ensure that that didn't get screwed up than worry about what's going on with Checo.
I agree. I think like, some people they look back at like Monaco and they're like, well, that wasn't Checo's fault. And it's like, but it was, because if he had qualified better, it wouldn't have happened. Like we yes, we all have our favorites, and I don't hate any drivers really, but like just look at what he's doing. Take like, oh, I feel bad for him, it wasn't his fault. No, take that aside. It He wouldn't have been in that position if he'd qualified better. And we've
Yep.
just seen the pattern before. So I know it's setting off alarms for Red Bull, because like it's setting off alarms for just fans that are watching. So it's very interesting. And for Red Bull's sake, I'm a Red Bull fan. Like
Okay.
I love Max.
Yep.
And I'm like, for Red Bull's sake, like I would love to see a fight. Like I don't want it to be like,
Oh, for
I don't
sure.
want it to just be Red Bull or Max is carrying like Red Bull. And I want it to be like Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, they're all actually fighting for the constructors at the end. So I hope that for their sake, for Red Bull's sake, like they have two drivers that are actually fighting for them to have that constructors championship. Like it's hopefully the bad juju that Checo has, it needs to go away for his sake.
But also, if it keeps going, then it just makes it more interesting.
Yes, of
You
course. I
know,
mean,
it's all
and
for the plot.
right. And like I said, I am a newly Red Bull fan. I mean, I feel like I'm a fan of everyone, but like as a Ferrari like lover at heart, I'm
Hmm.
like seeing that they're like not that far away. I'm having hope, which I know is scary as a Ferrari fan, but I have a little bit of hope.
Me too. Me too. I have
Right.
hope too. Yeah, I
Right.
got you. Okay, the biggest piece of news though that I really wanted to get your opinion on because it really does it doesn't affect someone that I know you love, but it makes me sad for someone that you love. So let's just set the stage. So the FIA, it was announced this week, the FIA is changing their rules. They used to have this rule that you had to be 18 in order to get a super license. This is actually called the like Max Verstappen rule
Mhm.
because Max Verstappen got a super license before he was 18, and then they decided that wasn't probably a good idea. They changed it to 18. Well, this week it has been announced that they're changing that um, because Kimi Antonelli, obviously we know he's in contention for the Mercedes seat, and apparently Williams Merck, they want to run him in some FP1 sessions this year. And in order for him to do that, he needs to have a super license. Um, and so they changed the rules. Basically, what they said, this was their wording as for, I guess, what is allowed or why you'd be allowed as a 17-year-old. At the sole discretion of the FIA, a driver judged to have recently and consistently demonstrated outstanding ability and maturity in single-seater Formula car competition may be granted a super license at the age of 17, which is basically them saying, like, we get to decide. And, like, it's up to us. So we get to choose. Now, this unfortunately made me think of Colton Herta because if anyone wasn't around at the time, Colton Herta, 2022, yeah. yeah, two, was like the favorite to replace Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri, but he didn't have enough points to get a super license. And the FIA would not make an exception for Mr. Colton Herta, which then led to Nick DeVries getting the C. And now here we are. As a Colton Herta stan, I would love for you to speak your truth.
First of all, I love that I am like just widely known as a Colton
You
Herta
are.
fan.
You are.
I it brings me joy.
Good.
Secondly, can you just imagine what it would be like right now to have Colton Herta at that AlphaTauri seat, V carb? Just imagine
I know.
that team, and especially with Yuki's just like really coming into his own as just like really, really fighting.
Yep.
As much as I love Daniel, like just imagine that
I
would have
know.
been iconic. He is a race winner. Like I could go on
Mm-hmm.
and on about like just how his racecraft is impeccable. He
Mm-hmm.
rarely ever like he rarely ever puts a foot wrong. And so for the FIA to just be like, oh, we get to decide, they're so unserious. They are so unserious. Like, and I've seen some people saying the debate, which I kind of want to know, like your opinion on this. The debate of like, oh, they're just trying to keep it very European, like they don't want
Yeah.
as many Americans in there. Which for me, I'm like, oh, I can definitely see that. But then some people are like, well, why do they have so many American races on the calendar? And I was like, I think there's a difference between having American races and then having like American drivers and more of like an American presence actually within the sport. I think there's a little bit of difference. And, I just think like also there's that whole thing of, I don't know if you mentioned this, that they get less points when they're like competing in IndyCar rather than
Yep.
like Formula 3, 2, whatever. And that
Yep.
he tried to go over to Formula 3 and they denied him. So it's like, what? I would, yeah.
Well,
I actually don't even know if I've said anything on socials. I just reposted the thing that Alexander Rossi said because like I'm mad, so I just like try not to like just speak when I'm angry or like I'm just like whatever. Like everyone knows how I feel, but it doesn't make sense. It's unserious and whatever is basically all I have to say is whatever. Like
I
I saw
know.
like whatever.
Like so I agree with you. I do think there is a obviously there's a bias towards like the Formula series. So like
Right.
that's definitely, and it makes sense. It's Formula One, so they would be biased towards the Formula
Sure.
categories. I understand that.
Sure.
But I think there's an unfair bias towards American racing and IndyCar. And this feeling that, oh, IndyCar is not preparing you well enough for Formula One, I think is not fair, because I do even though it is different, it like they are different. I think if you have a lot of experience, and Colton like had so much experience in IndyCar
And it's
prior,
not
it
like
was
he
like he was
wasn't
a rookie.
trying. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not like he wasn't trying to switch over to the formulas. Like, like it's not like he was trying to do all the things and
right,
and then I sent
right.
you something. I don't know if you
Oh,
saw it. I
yes,
sent
I
it
did.
right before this. Yeah. Where Pata was also talking about how he was like with Red Bull and was something with Super Formula and was doing all the things and was like doing really well. And then they were like, the FAA was like, nope, no super license. Like, so it's very, which I think that Pato and IndyCar is great. We've
It's
gotten some,
perfect match.
yeah, it is. It really is a perfect
Yeah,
match. Um, but I feel like all I have to say is whatever. Like
I know.
I
I
just
know. I'm happy for Kimmy. Like I'm excited for him. That's cool. Like I think he obviously is a up and coming amazing talent, and like that's great. But I also just think this whole, I mean, literally, Hannah and I have like we constantly are just like the FIA is just not serious. It's not they're not a serious
unserious.
um business. I mean, they're not a business, but they're
But like
just
a
not.
sport governing body,
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a governing body, and they just pick and choose when to apply rules, and things are willy-nilly and yada yada
Yes.
yada yada yada. And I don't want to get on the bad side of the FIA, but also I'm like, we have to speak our truth.
Right. Always. Always.
Always.
Yeah,
So
it's
anyway,
serious. Colton Herta was chipped. Whatever. His time will come. It's it has been a while since another win for him. Um,
hmm
waiting for that. But yeah, whatever. I agree with everything Alexander Rossi said.
Yep.
Period.
Period. Okay, moving on to the upcoming race this weekend, Barcelona. Do you think there's a chance we could get Carlos Sainz's future announcement this week?
Yes, 100%.
And you think
I
it's Williams?
Yes, I had a dream. And if you know me, my dreams, I had a dream before the Australian GP that Max would DNF. And there was something with like the number 5 in there. And what is it? Was his position P5 or something? I don't know. There was something weird. And then like also Carlos won, so like 5-5. Like my dream was very,
Okay. Okay.
I had a dream that Carlos like was on stage at like a fan zone or whatever and was like speaking in Spanish and then was like, next year I'm gonna, which I don't think it's gonna be that
No,
grand,
no.
obviously. But like I had a dream and that he said he was going to Williams and that like and then like this is my dream. And then Alex walks out and was like on stage and like did the like fan zone thing with him. Don't think that's happening, but I do think it's coming this week. That's what
I
I think.
I do too. I mean, at this point, it's like, what's he waiting for? He knows his options.
Yeah.
It's Williams or Audi. He could just pick Carlos. And like
Yeah.
once you pick, then everything else can fall into place. I'm just like, he's really taken his sweet, sweet time.
Yeah, I think they wanted to wait for that home crowd. I feel like it's probably like his dad or his cousin manager that was like, we need to wait until the Spanish GP. But I mean,
Yeah,
I'm happy that it's Williams. I know there's a lot of people
me
that are upset
too.
with it. I think it's such like honestly, I think it's a great move for both Williams and Carlos. Like, can you imagine if Williams became a top team again?
Yeah,
Whoa. Like
yeah,
history.
yeah. It'll
That
be
would be
so
insane.
cool.
Yeah. And I'm wondering what James like really has cooking, like what they,
Right.
they had like a rough start, but I'm just imagining if Carlos was in the seat this year as opposed to Logan, like how different maybe things would have gone for Williams. So I think it's exciting and really good
I
for the
do
sport.
too. And we were saying too, like, I'm excited to see Alex if this ends up happening. Excited to see Alex with a teammate that like is really actually pushing him because he
Yes.
hasn't had, Nicholas Latifi and
Yes.
Logan Sargent are not necessarily
No, I
really putting up a fight.
100% agree. And I hope that they continue what's their podcast thing called? Do you know
Oh,
Torque?
uh,
Torque?
oh yeah, Torque Talk or something like
Something
that.
like that. Something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I hope that continues
Me
because
too.
Carlos Banter's so good. That's why I feel like
I
him
He
and
does.
Charles just like they when they have to do their challenges, their seed squared challenges, it always
Yep.
works really well. So hope they keep that. I think it'll be so
It'll be
fun.
it'll be so good. Do you
And
have
you're
a prediction for the race this weekend?
oh
Any
gosh.
any
No.
dreams?
I mean, dreams,
Anything coming to you in a dream?
I'm still waiting for Lewis on a freaking podium. Like
I
I'm
know. I
I
know.
want him to get
Same.
pole. I want him to get a podium. Like I'm just, and at this point, so I bought Lewis and Ferrari merch this weekend on Etsy.
Oh,
And yeah, I'm so excited. But I'm just like already manifesting for next year. And then I'm like, "Ugh, I can't let this, like, I still want this year to happen. But I feel like it's just slipping away even more. And so then I just keep dreaming about next year. But that's
I I
that's my dream.
I cannot wait for next year. As a 1644 girl,
Yes.
I am so pumped for next season at Ferrari.
Yes. No, what are we gonna call believing for Barcelona?
Oh, okay. So we
Believing
unfortunately we had to do S because we're going by like Spanish GP.
Spanish.
So you can come up with an S word.
Something
I said
silly.
spicy.
Spicy. There we go. Ooh, I'd love a spicy race. I would love a spicy race because I feel
Yeah,
like notoriously Barcelona is pretty chill.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
So I would love some spice.
Me
Let's see what
too.
happens.
Me too. I think my predictions Max isn't going to win.
See, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to get too ahead of myself. But I agree. I
We
agree.
have to just put things out there into the
Okay.
universe.
Love it.
And
Love
believe
it.
and believe. Okay, let's switch gears and I want to talk about you now
Oh,
because like I said, you've been just blowing up. You've been, I mean, you're truly like, if people don't follow you, which I don't know why they wouldn't be following you, you have the best content. You're always at races doing stuff. I mean, it's just amazing. I want to ask you first how you got into Formula One and then how you kind of became an F1 content creator.
yeah. How I got into Formula One was I dated this guy back in 2020, and I just wonder one day if he is ever gonna find my page and then also see that I've talked about him and be like, oh, but he was obsessed with Lewis Hamilton and was
Okay.
like, you like look at this guy, like he's like so pretty, like he's just like a pretty guy. And I was like, oh, wait, like he is. And then he was like, yeah, so there's this thing called F1. And he watched Drive to Survive. And I always say this, like people always dog on women for watching Drive to Survive. And I'm like, he got
Yeah.
into Drive to Survive. So skirt, skirt. And then I thought it was interesting, but then I kind of just like let it, I like, the relationship ended, whatever. I never really thought about it. And then one day I was like, what was that thing that guy was so obsessed with? And then I became obsessed with it. And so I was a loose fan like 2020, 2021. And then 2022 was when I really got into
Same.
Formula One. Yeah. And I did not know there was like a content creator aspect of it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah,
Like
totally.
I felt like there weren't even like, this is so funny. I was like, oh, this is like a niche cool thing that I'm into. Like no one else is into this. And then when I went to the Canadian GP like a year ago, I was like, oh my God, there's so many people here. Like people come and watch cars. Like I just like didn't know. I was so oblivious. And then I also went to Coda, which I don't know if I've told you the story
What
that
what?
you that we met
Oh yeah,
before.
I know.
Okay, and I didn't know like y'all had a podcast. I didn't know y'all were creators. Like I didn't know anyone. Like when we were at those like little events, I was just like, oh, it's just people that like cars, and we like I don't even know. I
No,
was
I
just
don't know if you remember that I ran into you guys. We had left that like bar and I ran into you like waiting
yes,
for my Uber.
yes, no, I vividly remember because Molly and I went, and we
Yeah.
also ran into you on the
The pit
pit lane.
lane. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes,
I
I
vividly
remember.
remember because we left and me and Molly turned to each other at the same time. We go, she's so nice. Like that's
Oh,
literally
that's
what we
nice.
said. I
Oh, that's
remember like
nice.
vividly we talked about you after that. Like we were like,
That's
wonder if we'll see
sweet.
them again. Like we never did, but it
Here we
was
are.
right. And then like so then I started, it was like I kind of got into like more content creation because that was October 2023,
Yeah.
Coda. And then when I saw like more creative, I was like, oh, so maybe this is like a thing that like because I was a lifestyle influencer at the time.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, maybe there is more to content creation than like just lifestyle and like talking about skincare and like things in New York City. And so I started following some people and I was like, oh, this is like a big thing. And that's when I'd gotten like a lot after Coda, I like got the bug. I feel like I'd already kind of had it, but that was when I really got it. And I was like, and also F1 Academy was that weekend too.
Yep.
I just like fell in love with like everything that they were doing, wanted to do and more. And so I went home and I literally told Molly, I was like, I have to do this. I had to do this like forever. And December came around. I don't know what it was. I just kind of had like really nothing to do. And I asked Molly, my wife, I said, what if I started an Instagram and just started like posting about F1 because I got tired of putting it on my personal page and like no one interacting with it. I was like, no one cares. And Molly was like, yeah, do it. And I always want to do things that are very true to me. So I was like, I want it to be a space that is for women, femmes, and then also like my wife is non-binary, so I also wanted my wife to feel included in this project as well. And so that's why our little thing is always like ladies and ladies.
I love
And
it.
I started it, and it just, I mean, it took off. And I started it December 16th, and I was at 30,000 by like January
Yeah,
6th.
that's what I'm saying. Like you blew up. Like it was so I remember following you because I remember seeing your page and I was like, "Oh my God, I met her at Coda." Like I remember I was
Okay.
like, "That's I mean, I remembered fully." And then I think I checked your page like a couple weeks later. I was like, "Oh my God, like she is blown up. Like it was, and you just had to, I mean, you were so good at it. You had like, you just know how to create content. And there's like, that's the next thing I wanted to ask you is like, people were wondering like how you come up with content ideas and like how you stay creative. Cause it's something I struggle with, which is like, just the like keeping the creative juices flowing and
Right.
knowing what to post and stuff that like actually connects with people because it is hard to like get your content out there for people to see it.
Yeah,
So
the algorithm is
yeah,
weird.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
but I feel like you just found a way to just like break through that not very many people have been able to figure out. So snaps for you.
thank you.
No,
Um,
seriously.
no, I think it's just very like at when the one video that I made that really is where I got pretty much a lot of my following was I used the word like community. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is that I was very serious about community,
Mm-hmm.
which some people I think I've seen a lot of things recently where people will try to or will say that they want to find a community, but I'm like, you really have to back it up because there are actually a lot of people in the motorsport space that are genuinely looking for community and
Mm-hmm.
looking for people that are interested in the same things that they're interested in and actually having conversations and like y'all have a or you have a chat on fan amp, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like people that are holding spaces for conversations.
Yep.
Um and that I think is kind of where a lot of my things took off. But when it comes to making content, I like I said was a lifestyle content creator, and I try to tell people this all the time is that like I don't work like a traditional 9 to 5. I don't. So I understand that like people who are still working full-time 9 to 5s, it's I could not. I used to work, I was a manager for Aritzia. So I worked more than 40 hours. I worked almost
Yeah.
50 hours a week and I never had time for my content. So when I quit, it was like I'm gonna fully do like content. I That was when I was still more lifestyle. That's when I had a lot more things pick up because I had more time to actually do more research, hashtag research. Oh, I also can see what's trending. I have time to look through things. You get off from your 9 to 5, you got to make dinner. And then you're like, oh, I need to put up a post. You're just going quickly, oh, trending audio. Okay, great. Like you don't have time to dedicate to it. So it's like, I try to tell people do not compare, like, just like, please don't compare my journey to like yours. If you are still working a 9 to 5 and wanting to like kind of branch out into the content creator space, because I genuinely am so privileged that like my partner was like, you can quit your job and really focus on this. So like I had the time to just research,
Yep.
and I have all day to just like make content. So if that answers the question,
No,
I
it
think.
does. Because I
Yeah.
was, yeah, because like something I've been struggling with a lot, just especially this season, like the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. I
Mhm.
work a pretty demanding 9 to 5 job. Hannah does as well. And part of my actual job is creating content. And so by the time like I'm
Oh
done
my
with work, like
gosh.
my creative well is just dried up. And it's been really challenging for me to like come up with content ideas or even have like the desire to want to post. Like just doing the podcast is kind of all I can handle sometimes. And I feel like I want to share that with people. Like it's it's a challenge to like actually
Totally.
it's and you're not alone if you're also struggling with that because and it ebbs and flows. There's times where I'm like, oh, I have ideas. And then there's times where I'm just like, I can't even look at TikTok or Instagram
Yeah.
because I'll just not feel good about myself and I need to put it away, you know? So I think we all have to be comfortable with like the ebbs and flows of the content creation life.
No, I get that. Like when I first started this, I didn't have any. I also manage small businesses, their social media accounts. So I'm an admin as well for small businesses. But when I first started my account, that was not the case. And then I added on that work on top of, because I was going to race weekends, which I think is another misconception. Like people think that when you are a content creator in the motorsport space and they see you all the time at the track, that like everything's paid for, you're
Oh,
being
yeah.
flown out. Wrong. Like wrong. um
Yeah.
I was That's a lot of money I'm paying to go things so I can get the content because I know it's going to pay off in the end.
Yep.
But like, so I took, I took on making social content and social media strategies for clients, and my content definitely changed. And so that's why now I have a team. I have an assistant content creator who is volunteer based, and like that has been a huge help. And so I
Hmm.
feel like, you know, people just see the content and they're like, wow, Tasia's putting out so much. But like, no, y'all, I have an amazing assistant content creator. And I also have my wife. My wife works 7 days a week, but Molly is still like so dedicated and like helps with like the back end things like our website and stuff like that. So it
That's
truly does
awesome.
take a village. Like it is very, content creation is a lot. And I really do feel for y'all in the space, in any space where you work a 9 to 5 and then you also have to create content, especially like you said, you create content for other people. Girl, like after I'm done with the whole content capture day for a client, I'm like, I do not want to do anything. And so
Right.
then, oh, great, my assistant like already did something great. I can put that up. Like, so
Yep.
it's,
Not to complain though, too. I do want to say, like, obviously we do it because we love it and it's
no,
great and it's fun,
of course.
but it definitely it's a journey. It's a journey.
Yeah,
And not everything is obviously social media. We all know it's not all real. And even like race weekends, people will look at people's content and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so jealous because they get to do all these great things. And like it is amazing and wonderful. And you get to do such fun stuff. But it's also challenging and difficult and not all, there's a lot of things people don't see and
right.
people know this. So just I think that's important to
Yeah.
remember too.
No, I will never complain about the life that I live because of the job that I have. It like I recently posted about this. Like it is a huge privilege what I get to do, and what we get to do as creators, how we are able to create content for something that we really truly love.
Yep.
It's a privilege, but there, of course, with anything, there's nuance to it. We
Hmm.
are sometimes struggling because we have 9 to 5s. We're sometimes struggling because, we're juggling other things in life, whatever it may be.
Yep.
So I I'm with you. I feel you.
You also made a really great TikTok fairly recently about diversity and inclusion in Formula One and like the need for real diversity and inclusion and teams to actually not just like say that they want diversity and inclusion, but actually implement things
Right.
into their practices and teams. Do you think F1 is getting better in that regard? Like, what do you want to see in terms of just, I don't know, actually walking the walk?
Hmm. I don't want to be like I don't know, like a pessimist, but
Hmm.
I I don't really see a change happening within like at a bigger level. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. At a
Yeah.
bigger level, I don't see a change happening within F1 and just like all motorsports, because if you look at some of the series that have like I partnered with Arrow McLaren during the Detroit GP. It was a kickoff for Pride weekend. I had truly like just the best weekend. It felt really great to have a team support me.
Yeah.
And by team, I mean like it was the social and digital team. So they really were supportive. And, there was a moment when I told them, like, we don't have to post this because I was scared. Like, I was like, I'm going to get hate, which I always do. I always do. But it's whatever. But that's like kind of what I mean, that like at a bigger level, I don't think they ever really will, because there are those people that like
There's the
are
backlash.
yeah, that are going to give pushback, or they don't want to have to deal with the pushback.
Right.
So I think it's up to, which is why I say it makes a difference to have true intersectional diversity and inclusion within the team, because maybe, I don't know, maybe things will change one day because there's someone higher up that isn't the normal
Yeah.
older rich white man.
Right.
So I don't know, until that changes, I don't think I'll see any change. But I do think that smaller, quote unquote, smaller things still matter.
Hmm.
Like the post that I did with Aaron McLaren still matter. McLaren partnering with Racing Pride, that still matters. And I think it still is reaching diverse fans.
Hmm.
I see that and they're like, oh, wow. Or people who were maybe newly trying to get into F1 and maybe, hey, maybe they're queer, maybe there is a black queer person that's like, I want to get into motorsport, and so they just start looking up their favorite like teams that they've seen on Drive to Survive or something, and then they see that post that McLaren made, and
Yep.
they're like, wait, maybe I can find some people to really communicate with that are like me in the
Right.
sport. Like, I feel like people who really give backlash don't understand that, and you know what, let them, like, because there are people that do and understand its importance. So I think that's why people talk about diversity, and I'm like, I don't mean just women, because
Yeah, 100%.
that's great, like, trust me, that's great, but also when you include, I just posted about this on Threads, when you include other people as well, like, I try to tell women, don't you can't exclude like your non-binary allies as well, because what do you think is going to happen if y'all combine forces? More good is going to happen, like, if you bring
Right.
in allies, like, of other gender identities, sexual identity, whatever, like, more
Hmm.
good is going to happen. You're only going to have more people in your corner to bring up the things, the changes that you're wanting to make. You want to get more women involved in motorsport. Your non-binary allies are going to shout for you with like, yes, let's get more women into the sport. Like,
Right.
so long story short, it's not just about like just women. Like, I want people to genuinely look at like there was something during International Women's Month, like I think it was a motorsport marketing agency. They posted like, proud of like the women, like, here's, and it was a picture, and it was all white women except for one woman of color.
Hmm.
And I don't understand how the manager higher up can look at a picture like that and say we're doing good.
Right.
You have to look around you. If you
Hmm.
have no diversity around you, you have to think there's something higher up that we're missing,
Yep.
or starting from the bottom, we're missing something.
Right.
And that I feel like that is what people are not thinking about. It's not bad, it's just take a step back and look. Like, you really have to look.
Right. And I feel like that's something, I mean, not to, and something that like Hannah, like what that we talk about a lot is it's obviously Formula One, to use them as an example, like you have 20 drivers and obviously there's management, there's people that are involved calling the shots, hiring people, like they are the ones that actually decide who works for these teams and whatnot. But you also have these drivers who can use like their voice and their platform to kind of push change within their teams and to say like this is what we need to see in our factories, in our
Mm-hmm.
like everywhere. And it's
Mm-hmm.
always so frustrating that Lewis is kind of the only one to ever really speak up
Support.
about it and say something about it and actually like make sure that there is change within the team that he is with. And I something that I like want is more of like the drivers and just also like principals, other people who have the power to make those big changes, to recognize that and start to maybe take inventory of the
Yeah.
people that they have working for them and just ask themselves like in a on a global scale, like can people see themselves, can lots of people see themselves within our organization and our team,
Yeah.
not just a very small tiny group of people. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's always missed.
I do think James Valls did say something kind of similar to that a while ago. And I did appreciate him for saying that. And something else that I think some people were like really, really applauding him for saying that. And I'm like, I get where y'all are coming from for like applauding him for saying that, but it's like, it shouldn't be so taboo that we're like, wow, James
Exactly.
Valls really said, like, it should just be
Yes.
like, oh, great. Like,
Yes.
we
It should be
should not,
standard.
exactly, it should be standard. Like,
Yes.
you don't clap for like a fish when he's in water. Like, you shouldn't, like, we shouldn't be like, oh wow, outstanding. Like,
Yes.
it should be standard. But it is like, yes, thank you, because not a lot of people are saying that. Team principals aren't saying that. So
No.
yeah, it's I try to just like right now, I'm like, I am really set on making a difference within my community, and
Hmm.
then doing what I can with like the partnership I did, like I said, with Era McLaren, like more things like that. And that's always been my goal. Like, I have F1Femme as like two parts. It's like my community, and then
Mhm.
also like Asia Johnson as like a motorsport content creator. And with me as a content creator, my goal is always I'm pushing the doors down. I'm getting my foot, myself, my face, my name indoors in places where Black women, Black queer women haven't been.
Yep.
And I know that if I do that, there's another someone that sees themselves in me, whatever.
100%.
I can do that too. Like we all have people that we look up to. Like I look up to Naomi Schiff a lot, and
Love
um,
her.
love her. The day she followed me, I did cry. I screamed, and it was great. But I don't like ever think I'm gonna be a presenter. Like that's never been like my goal. I love like the trajectory I'm on, and I love what I do. But just seeing her in those spaces, it's like, oh, like maybe I can do that. And I think I'm a little bit tired of hearing people in the motorsport space say, if you can see it, be it. And I'm like, I still can't see it. I'm just letting you
Yeah,
know.
right.
I still
Yes.
can't see it because I saw
Yes.
people posting for International Women's Day, and I barely saw me. Like,
Right.
we have to do better. We have to do better. So it's like
Yep.
I cannot have another team, agency, brand, whatever, say like, oh, diversity, and then it is literally just the same diverse person over and over and over again. Like
Yes.
it
Yes.
needs to be more.
Yes.
It needs to be more.
Yes. And I think it's also on like everyone in the community, like as a white person, to like, not that I have a lot of power or like ability to do stuff, but like, to be able to share information that I have with other people and to like to lift other people up when you can and like
Allies are so important.
it's
So
that's very
important.
important and like just simple things that we can do to like make sure that we're supporting all types of people like you
Yeah.
said. I think that's really really important. um okay, a few more questions for you and then I have a fun question for you that we
Okay.
ask every guest. So okay, one question from a listener was, what is your favorite race that you've been to? IndyCar, F1, can be whatever you want.
That's a hard one. Um, Man, I'm just gonna say I love IndyCar races.
So
I
fun.
love them. I will say that it is a lot of fun for me to watch F1 races at home. I love going to F1 races. Do not get me wrong.
No,
But
I agree with you.
you know what I mean? Like when you go to
Yes, I
F1,
do agree with you.
they're still fun and the energy is still great. But I think those are a lot more fun at home. And then when I watch IndyCar races at home, sometimes I'm like, "Ugh, okay, I just want to be at the track," because like it's so much more fun to watch it. I don't know. It's just, and like the access at IndyCar is like incredible. So as I'm saying that, I'm gonna say when this last weekend when I was at Detroit, that was pretty awesome. But St. Pete was my absolute favorite racing experience. I
Oh,
cried at
good.
that weekend. It was also like our first trip, like we did an F1 Femme trip, and it was
Oh,
one of our
yeah.
first big things because that was like at the very beginning of the season, like before we'd had an F1 race. And we had just like we all bonded. Like a group of us stayed in Airbnb, and then another group of us like stayed together in an apartment. And we just bonded. Like we all got ready together at a table like every day. Like we all had breakfast together. We all drove to the track together. Like it was just true girlhood. And
Yes.
like we went to a bar, and when we had to talk about like leaving, I just like sobbed. I cried. I was like crying. I was like, I'm so happy I found you guys. Like, and I just couldn't believe that it all the things I dreamed of for F1 Femme like actually happened.
Yeah.
And that's just gonna get even better. And then also the racing was impeccable. Like it was a great time. And I did not know anything about IndyCar. And so I just learned so much that weekend. Like also Aaron McLaren hosted us, like all the girls and like and more like other girls too, for like their International Women's Day panel. I was on the panel, which I was like, what the heck? Like I didn't think I'd be
So
on a,
cool.
like it was just an amazing experience. And I love the IndyCar atmosphere. Like if you're listening, if you are an F1 fan and you have never been to an IndyCar race, go to an IndyCar race. Like it is just, that's the best. The
I'm
absolute.
going to Monterey this weekend.
I'm so jealous.
I'm really excited. I'm very, very excited. The next question was, and you may have already answered it, but what's your best motorsport experience so far? Was that your favorite experience?
I mean, yeah, I think both of my IndyCar experiences this year have been the best, which shout out IndyCar. I just love y'all. Like the people there are like insanely nice. It's crazy.
It's
It's
so
crazy.
fun.
Like I'll be in the way of like a car being towed out and they're like, move. Sorry, ma'am. I'm like, oh, okay. It's okay. Like I'm in the way. Like it's okay. And it's just, I don't know. And me working with Sarah McLaren and Crystal, who is
She's the best.
oh my God, the best. One of the admins, also someone that is like, I see a
Yep.
black woman in an amazing role in motorsport. And I'm like, I don't want that job, but like I love what you do and I want to be like I want to be you.
And she
Like
kills it. She
she
kills
kills it.
it.
Like we're literally in their pit box and she's like doing her thing, live tweeting them like, oh, she's a boss. She's killing it. Like I love being in that environment. I love seeing people like you can really see people in action, working, doing what they do and it is so epic to see. So like I think Detroit was probably one of my favorites because that also had a lot of craziness if you watched that race.
Hmm.
Um, like the rain came out of nowhere. So just like seeing everyone in the pits, like how they communicate. Like I also have a good relationship with the Firestone people. So like they know when people are coming into pit. And so like
Mm,
we're also in their box, like hearing them be like, number seven's coming, number five. Like it was just like everyone's really working.
crazy.
And it's like I was just getting like chills. I was like, this is like motorsport is so cool. Like there's so many different aspects, and it was just like the best,
I
the
love
best,
it.
the
I
best.
love it. Okay, last question, which is a question we ask every guest.
Okay.
You are going to a dinner party and you can bring it's you, three F1 drivers currently on the grid, and one team principal. Who are you bringing to this dinner party?
Oh. Wait, why do I think this is real? I was like, wait, I could invite them.
Tomorrow night, they're gonna be,
Could you imagine? Could you
yeah,
imagine?
I can set this up for
Um,
you.
well, obviously, number one, Lewis,
Of
always.
course, yes.
I've said, people are always like, don't meet your heroes, but I genuinely do think when I meet Lewis, like I've practiced what I'm going to say to him. So Lewis for sure. Um, team principal, I already know, Fred.
100%. I
Fred,
love Fred.
easy. Also, like he loves Lewis, so that's gonna be fun. And I like kind of know French, so I can like practice my French with him. He'll probably tell me it's terrible anyways, but it's fine. So that'll be fun. Two others. Oh my gosh, this is hard.
Who's
This
gonna
is
bring like good vibes to this dinner for you?
like I don't want it to be boring. Like I
Yeah.
was gonna say Valtteri, but then I was like, then Lewis and Valtteri are just gonna talk the whole time, and they're like not gonna talk to like the rest of us at the table. Oh my God, this is hard. Do people like know right off the bat?
Some people do, some people take their time. It's okay. There's no rush.
Matt,
Okay, that'll be interesting. Lewis and Max at a table will
I
be very
know,
interesting. Good,
I know,
interesting conversation.
I know,
I
but
feel
like,
like you need to bring someone, if you do Lewis and Max, you need to have someone that's like that can hold them together. And I actually have someone in mind, but I'm not gonna put that in your
I've also heard like stories of Max going out, and I'm like, see,
yes.
if I bring some
Yes.
wine to the table, I start making some cocktails.
Yes.
You can have his almave. Like,
Yes.
I'll make a good mocktail for you. But like, I know Max is gonna be, but he's so funny.
He's
He's
so
so funny.
funny. I agree.
I'm like, who? Like, I'm also gonna assume that even though my wife doesn't get a seat at the table, I'm gonna assume that Molly would be somewhere near, and I know they would want Oscar Piastri there. But that doesn't seem like a good mix.
Mm, mm.
Who would you say? I
I
can't.
would say Daniel.
I was gonna say Daniel, but then I was like, is that wrong? I don't know why there's no wrong answer, but I was
I
gonna say
think that's
Daniel.
because Daniel and Max obviously are close, and I feel like Daniel and Lewis have a nice relationship too. And I feel like he could really bring
Yeah,
everyone together.
right. You're right. Because then also Fred's there, so like they'll okay, that'll be
Humor.
yes. And Daniel and Fred have had some funny moments too. Okay, 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 okay. I like that.
I mean,
I like
I don't want to, influence your dinner
no,
party.
no, no, no. No. I also, when I first got into F1, it was Lewis and Daniel for me, always. So, I mean, I still love Daniel, obviously. I feel like he's just like always has a soft spot in my
Yeah.
heart. Oh, I like that.
Okay, good. Well,
I like
that sounds
that.
wonderful. I will be sitting on a different table just observing.
I love that. Not me
That'd be
thinking
very
it's
fun.
really gonna happen. I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
I always like asking that question because, well, it's funny. Like the principles are either people only ever pick, well, recently Fred's come into the mix, but before it was only ever Toto. People only said Toto.
And I
Um,
also I thought about it because I would want to ask him what happened that night. You've seen that TikTok video where he's like being crowd surfed.
yes, yes,
I need
yes,
to know what happened that night. So
yes.
before I would have said Fred, I probably would have said Toto because I just want to know and I want to
Yeah.
see if he's seen the videos.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
Okay, okay, we think.
I'm
Okay.
sure he has. He has to have.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much for being on. I just appreciate you coming on and
Thanks for having
filling
me.
in for Hannah, co-hosting with me this week. Everyone, of course, if they're not already, should 100% follow you. You're on TikTok, Instagram, anywhere else?
Threads. I don't know if y'all are on Threads.
Threads.
It's a poppin' time over there. It really is.
Good time.
And
Yeah, I
Twitter
mean,
trying or
yeah.
X.
And you do just like, yeah, you have so many events and things that you create and come up with. And like if people are looking for like a real, genuine community, you gotta follow F1Femme.
Especially if you live in New York City, we do a
Yes.
ton of events here.
Yes, you do. You do. Okay. You know how we finish the show.
I sure
So
do.
when you are ready, I would love for you to hit us with an enchanté.
Enchante.